Nebi Fest is an annual gathering of Baha'i youth in Northeast United States. And when the gathering first started in 1998, 99, I believe, the goal was to get the youth in the region together, just to give them a break in the middle of the winter, to get together and support one another and develop friendships and so on. But as the conference has evolved over the years, it has become an extremely important part of the life of young people in this region. And now what we try to do at this conference is to focus the energy of the youth, mostly Baha'is, but not only Baha'is. They bring their friends and their relatives. What we try to do is focus them in understanding what their mission is. Every generation of young people has a mission, and they have to understand it in order to execute it. And what we try to do here is explore those principles and ideas that make up the basic mission of the youth of this generation. Hello! Wow, there's a lot of you. Good morning. Oh, come on. I have not been gone that long. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Great to be here. It's been quite a few years since I was here last, and the past several years my schedule has been really crazy. But the other reason why I haven't been here is because your mission hasn't changed, and I keep telling you the same thing every year. And I don't want to bore you, but I think some of those people that I talked to back then are no longer youth. So, and some of you are not old enough to be here, so I feel I'm safe this year. As I was preparing for this talk, I thought of the very first Nabi we had in 2000. And a woman by the name of Shuri Lohmani suggested that we have something for the youth in the winter, midway through the year, and to get them together and so on. And we were all a bit skeptical. And we went ahead and did it, and I think there were somewhere between 30 and 50 people. And we thought that was a great success. And this thing just keeps growing and growing, and I know a couple of years ago they said there are 500 people. And I thought, that is crazy. And how many people do we have this year? Really? 1,000? Wow. When I was here the last time, we talked about the mission of a generation. What is your mission? What are you doing here? 1,000 of you who've traveled from all corners of the country, and some from probably from outside this country, who are here to do what? Why are you here? And that's what I want to talk about. Whether you're a Baha'i or not, every generation of young people has a mission. And in 1844, when the Baha'i faith started, the founder, whose name was the Bab, which means the gate, said to his young followers, who were just about the same age as many of you in the room, younger than some, maybe a bit older than others. And he addressed them with the same words that 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years earlier, Jesus Christ had used the same words to address his young followers, who were also about your age and maybe a bit older or a bit younger. And the Bab said to his followers, "Ye are even as the fire which in the darkness of the night has been kindled on the mountain top. Let your light shine upon the eyes of men. Ye are the witnesses of the dawn of the promised day of God." Ye are the witnesses of the dawn of the promised day of God. While it is great to assemble at gatherings like this, while it is important for you to reinforce one another's faith and one another's belief and one another's conviction, even more important than that is what you take from here and what you do about whatever it is you're learning here. Otherwise, it will just be another party. It will be no different than all those kids who go partying at spring break. It will be no different. You have to take what it is you're learning here and take it out there and do something with it. Baha'u'llah says that the well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. So whatever it is that you want to do in this world, what education you get, what careers you choose, what professions you choose, what kind of jobs you choose to do, in whatever way you want to change the world, the very, 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 very first thing has to be the establishment of the oneness and the unity of the human family. There is absolutely nothing else in the world, not a single more important thing to accomplish than the unity of the human family. And you, by everything that you do, by the way you live your life, by the way you dress, by the way you behave, by the way you talk, by everything, by every hair on your head, it should testify. The reason for your existence is to bring about the oneness of the human family. And to do that, you have to be conscious. You have to be awake. Don't be passive. Don't go through your life just passively imitating the world around you. Because from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed, everything around you tells you you are a material being, that you are a physical being, that you are a consumer, especially if you grow up in America. You are a consumer. You consume and you buy. From the time you are an infant, you're taught to want things. And your life becomes about things unless you actively and consciously choose to be different. And to be different is great. In this day and age, to be different is what it is about. But to do that, you have to be what? Yeah, you have to be conscious. Because somebody's always trying to tell you something. The Universal House of Justice said that the world that the Baha'i youth are inheriting is one in which the distribution of educational, economic, and other basic opportunities is grossly unjust. Baha'i youth must not be daunted by such barriers. Their challenge is to understand the real condition of humanity and to forge among themselves enduring spiritual bonds that free them not only from racial and national divisions, but also from those created by social material conditions, and that will fit them to carry forward the great trust reposed in them. You see, you live in a world that divides you. divides you by age, by color, by neighborhood, by class, any which way you want. And to be different is to purposely and intentionally associate with people who are fundamentally different than you are. People who are fundamentally different than you are. And to stand up for your convictions. But if you are passive and unconscious, you can't do that. A little 10-year-old girl told a story recently about her class. In her class, one child used a racial slur to address another child. And she went up to the teacher, this 10-year-old child went up to the teacher and she said, you know, my religion doesn't permit that. And the teacher said, well, would you like to give a talk about this to your school assembly? And she said, yes. And the teacher thought this girl is going to say, you know, it's bad to be racist, you know, some Pollyannish little talk. This girl went home and she researched the writings and got her Baha'i quotes, and she went and gave a talk to the entire school assembly. And the teacher was blown away. You see, that is a conscious being. You see, I spoke to a mother of a 5-year-old who was in kindergarten, and the teacher taught them some silly little song about some turtle whose eyes were closed or something like that. And the little girl said, I know a song about close your eyes, and can I teach it to them, to the students? And the teacher said, well, maybe after lunch. You know, she was hoping to sort of brush it aside. And as soon as lunch was over, the little girl says, can I teach my song now? And the teacher says, okay. And she gets up there and she goes, close your eyes to racial differences. And the teacher was shocked. And it was a quote from the Baha'i writings, close your eyes to racial differences and open and welcome all with the eye of oneness. And that evening, the teacher waited for the parent to come, and she told her, I thought she was going to talk about some sheep or some lamb or something that went to sleep. So when people are conscious, age does not make any difference. Everywhere you are, you have to stand up. You have to stand up and use every opportunity. You know, from the moment you wake up, the reason you live on this planet, the reason you draw breath on this planet, the reason you go to school, the reason you raise a family, the reason you go to work, everything that you do is to testify to this principle, which is the most important principle of the day in which you live. It says that one of the things your generation of young people have to do is to understand the real condition of humanity. You cannot get an understanding of the real condition of humanity if you don't seek it out. You cannot depend on your school to give you this. You cannot depend on the media to bring you this. If you want it, you have to seek it out. Baha'u'llah says, the world is in great turmoil, and the minds of its people are in a state of utter confusion. And the universal laws of justice says, in response to their agonies, some feel impelled to rise against their oppressors, some can only flee for refuge, some capitulate to their fate. And you see this everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world, you see people running over other people, displacing them, abusing them, and people respond to it in different ways. Baha'u'llah says, do not busy yourselves in your own concerns. Let your thoughts be fixed upon that which will rehabilitate the fortune of mankind and sanctify the hearts and souls of men. You see, that is the purpose of your existence. That is the reason why you exist. But you live in a world that tells you, worry about yourself, worry about your hair, worry about your shoes, worry about your clothes. You know, we don't all look the way we do by accident. Somebody spends a lot of money telling us what to wear, what to look like. It isn't by accident that a whole generation of people dress a certain way. It is because we are told to do so. But if you are conscious, you would say to yourself, this $10 shirt that I'm wearing is probably made by a 12-year-old child who is chained to a sewing machine. That doesn't mean you don't buy it, but you be conscious, be aware. Everything that you have is at somebody else's sacrifice. And unless you are conscious, you cannot bring about the kind of changes that are necessary in this world. Baha'u'llah goes on to say, pay ye no heed to aversion and rejection, to disdain, hostility, injustice. Act ye in the opposite way. If others poison your lives, sweeten their souls. If others poison your life, sweeten their souls. You know, these are qualities of heroes and heroines, and they don't come by easily. And they're often not appreciated. Baha'u'llah goes on to say, should any one of you, enter a city, he should become a center of attraction by reason of his sincerity, his faithfulness and love, his honesty and fidelity, his truthfulness and loving kindness towards the people of the world. You see, you're no ordinary people. You are no ordinary people because you're sitting here, you've traveled from far and wide because you are concerned about the universe you live in, about the world that you're inheriting. Be ye helpers of every victim of oppression, the patrons of the disadvantaged. So, by your deeds and service, attract the hearts of those around you. By your deeds. It's not good enough to just sing songs about nice things and make banners and little stickers and bumper stickers and balloons and all those things. Those things are great, they're fun, they're cute, but they don't change the world. They don't change the hearts of people. People change the hearts of people by the way they treat them, by the way they serve them. You know, in the birthplace of the Baha'i faith in Iran, young people your age are so suppressed. Many of them are unable to go to school to get an education. And in a letter to them in September, the Universal House of Justice said to them that they have to overcome all those obstacles. And they said, service to others is the way you do it. Let it be your watchword. Let Abdul Baha be your example. Like him, you can find practical ways of serving your fellow citizens. Strive to work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with your fellow citizens in your effort to promote common good. See, it's not good enough for us, just as Baha'is, to sit and talk to one another and work with one another. I would like to particularly welcome those of you who are here who are not yet members of the Baha'i community. We are so delighted that you're here, because the work that we have to do is God's work, and it will require every single one of us on this planet. Every single one of us, and every single one of you who are here, who are friends of the Baha'is, I really, really encourage you to listen with your heart and with your ears while you're here this weekend about what our mission is. Your mission. There is no distinction, because there is nothing that can be accomplished in this world without the power of unity. The Universal House of Justice said to you, to discharge your responsibilities, you will have to show forth courage, the courage of those who cling to standards of rectitude, whose lives are characterized by purity of thought and action, and whose purpose is directed by love and indomitable faith. See, it takes courage. Change doesn't happen by itself. Someone consciously has to be willing to make that change. And then the House of Justice goes on to say, be not dismayed if your endeavors are dismissed as utopian by the voices that would oppose any suggestion of fundamental change. Trust in the capacity of this generation to disentangle itself from the embroilments of a divided society. That is your destiny. You are in the forefront. You are in the forefront of that battle against the forces of division and disunity. You are the vanguard in the very, very, very front. See, for those of us who were there, now we do other things. Okay, we do other things. And I remember people used to, I became a Baha'i when I was 18 years old, and I remember they sent me to Africa all by myself. I was 18 years old, and I don't know who thought that was a good idea. But they sent me out there, a brand new Baha'i. I'd only been a Baha'i for about 6 months or something like that. And most of those Baha'is I was visiting had been Baha'is longer than I was alive. And I remember thinking, I became a Baha'i by reading books and studying and so on. How would I explain the faith to somebody who's illiterate, who's never been outside of their village? I was thinking this, I never said it to anybody. And so one day I was in this village and I'm scared to death of mice. And so I was sitting there, and a mommy mice and a brood just went tick, 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 like this, and I saw them go into the hut that I was supposed to sleep in. And I thought, maybe I'll go to the next village, like that's going to make a difference. So I went to the next village, and there was no difference. There were snakes there and mice too. It wasn't helpful at all. And it was actually worse because I stayed up all night because I had tucked the piece of cloth all around me like a drum. And all night the mice kept dropping and on me. But in that village, the chief was a Baha'i. a long time behind. He'd become a Baha'i in the 1950s or something like that. And we were sitting around his campfire, and he said to me, you know, there are people that come to my village. They come from America, they come from England, they come from Iran, and they all say, mankind is one. Earth is one country. He says, I've never been outside my village. But you know what that means to me? He said, to me, it means that I have to be the best husband and the best father I know I can be. And then when the rest of my family sees how much I have changed, they will want to be Baha'is too. Then he says, when the other people in the village see how united our family is, then they will want to know, why are those people different? And then he said, as more and more of the people in my village become Baha'is, when the people from the next village pass through here after they've gone to the market, we stop robbing them. And they will say, wow, it's been 2 months since these people robbed us. What's the matter? And he said, that way, the whole world will change. That's how I can make the whole world change. So I hope when you leave this conference, you will take with you some way, somehow, something that will help you change this world into a different world. And don't be satisfied with anything less. Anything less than that. I love you all. Thank you. The Universal House of Justice, which is the international governing body of the Baha'i Faith, periodically elaborates on what the mission of the youth is. For instance, at the very beginning of the Baha'i Faith, the young people's responsibility was to travel everywhere they can to open territories and introduce the Baha'i Faith to people. That's what they did. They left their homes. And in those early days, one of the things that happened to them was they were forced to give up their lives for the sake of spreading the faith. And then as we have evolved, the mission has changed slightly. The fundamental mission is to bring about the unity of the human race. That is the reason for which the youth live. That is their purpose, that is their mission. But it takes different forms at different times. So let's say in the 1980s, in 1985, the Universal House of Justice issued a statement to the peoples of the world, just the statement on world peace. It was the promise of world peace. And the Universal House of Justice told the youth at that time, their mission is to deliver this statement to the peoples of the world. So youth from all over the world traveled everywhere and delivered the peace statement to the peoples of the world, to leaders, to people in the arts, ordinary people, everyone. They just traveled around and they delivered. That was their mission. That's what they lived for. And then as it has evolved, now the youth have a slightly different mission. And at every step along the way, the mission of youth is to lay the bricks for the foundation of a global civilization. That is what their mission is. And in this day and age, that mission is establishing the principle of the oneness of mankind, because Baha'u'llah says that the well-being of mankind, its peace and security are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. So whatever it is that we want to accomplish, whether it's cleaning the environment, whether it is passing legislation that helps people in one way or another, whatever it is that we're trying to do, improve health, find the cure for AIDS, find the cure for cleaning our rivers and oceans, whatever it is we want to accomplish, cannot be accomplished unless and until our unity is firmly established. So for us, unity is not a far distant goal, but it's the first step to finding the solutions to the world. And at the vanguard of that, at the very beginning of that line, it's the youth. It is their mission, their purpose for life. They have to understand that and not be distracted by the world around.